through that exercise, but it didn't really land, and for whatever reason you lost your way. Or maybe it is that you're really good at doing that, but for some reason it's just not practical and it's just not working for you at the moment. Well, if that's you, stay on, because that's what we're going to go through today. We're literally going to give you the whole sequencing of how to actually set goals. And if you remember to the original Monday Money that we were talking about, how to fire up that limbic system to be able to create that motivation, to be able to get that focus in order to be able to make it a reality. So as per always, drop your names in here if you're just logging on. We are, let me get my comment box up so that I can see you guys, or at least see your comments when you jump in. So just throw something in there so that I know that you can hear me, that you're there. It looks like everything's going okay on my side of the equation, but just let me know if you can hear me, that you're there, where you're coming in from, and participate as we go through here. Drop some questions in there so I can answer them along the way, because this is the final section on, well, let's call it the psychology or the mindset of money. From here, we're going to go on to the rest of the foundation. So we're going to go into various different aspects. Jeanette, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Glad you could join us. Michelle, another usual there. Peace to you too. Great to see you guys on here. Thanks for letting me know that you're out there. That's awesome. And throw some questions in as we go along. Mark, good to have you on board, brother. And so is my brother and my sisters at the moment. So we're going to keep on punching through the sunny coast. Oh man, well, it's sunny everywhere, I think, right about now. And so if you're just joining and you're just logging in now, this is the last module in and around the psychology or the mindset piece. So then we're going to start to move into other tactical areas that we can jump into. But this is tools and tactics. So I'm literally going to share with you an incredible matrix that you'll be able to use. Not just, again, so much of this psychology-based stuff is not just psychology-based. It is, not just money-based. You can utilize it in all aspects of your life. So if you've just dialed in, this would help you decide whether this is actually for you. So have you ever wondered how the athletes, how Tiger Woods got to where he got to? Because yes, there's a lot of diligence. And if you think, well, if it's just working hard and diligence, I'm there, I've got the skills, I've got the blood, sweat and tears in order to be able to prove it. So maybe you're going, well, I've got the determination, but maybe I'm lacking some tools that'll help me actually get there. Or maybe you've spent the time and you've actually mapped out your life in advance, right? You've put all the goals out. You've got it all there. Drop some comments if you've spent the time planning this stuff out, but you're just feeling like there's lack of alignment, or you're just not quite sure how to make it happen. Or perhaps you're one of these people who have actually written shit down and it's just materialized without you even having to think about it. And you're going, how the hell do I make this happen a hell of a lot more often, right? I just wrote it down and it came true. And we're going to go into some of the psychology behind this, but we're also going to go into some of the practical tools in order to be able to set these so that you can make sure that you achieve them. But also, we're going to give you a framework, a matrix that you can literally use. You'll be able to just take what I'm going to put up on the screen, you'll be able to pull this out, and you'll be able to then put this into an order that makes sense, not just for you, but for your family, so that you can set things out. It won't just do that. It'll give you the setup so that you can turn that limbic system on, right? And fire up that limbic system, get your hypothalamus pumping the kind of drugs that you need into your system, get that cortisol out, and get the norepinephrine in so you can focus, and maybe even a few hits of dopamine so you can enjoy the journey along the way. And plus, we're going to take you through a lot of the constructs as to why sequentially it's all important. And this is going to be really important for later on when we start to get into some of the cash flow modules, right? You will see as this evolves, you're going to see that all of these things are actually interlinked together. And as you see, because like I always say, this is our financial foundation. This is financial symbiosis. So what we're doing here is we're really learning all the little tools, and all the little neurons are going to start firing off as to how all of these things actually join together over time. And then start to create that forward momentum that you ultimately need, which takes the pressure off, because when you set the intention, when you know and you're living on purpose, then the effects are compounded. Jeremy, good to see you, mate. So let's run into it here. And one of the quotes that I love about goal setting and about designing your life in advance was one by Zig Ziglar, which is, a goal properly set is halfway reached. Right? A goal properly set is halfway reached. So why is that? Right? Why is it? And sometimes it's just the decision to make this. And as I said, I'm going to make it super, super practical and tactical, but let me set this up, because what I can promise you right now is if all you do right today is make a choice, then your life will change forever. Just make sure that it's the right choice. Make sure it's a good choice, right? But ultimately, why does that happen? When we decide to set ourselves on a path, why does it start to materialize around us? Right? And that can be a good path and a negative path. Like, just think about it from the negative perspective. How many times have you gone out, you've had an argument, whatever the case has been in the morning, you've gone, it's going to be a shit day today. And guess what? The world gave you a shit day, right? Is that because the world was just transpiring to make you have a shit game of chess? No, it's because you had the wrong filters on, right? You went out in the world and you were sorting for the shit, right? So what is it about our psychology that makes us do that? Maybe we can flip that around in a way that we can make it work for us so that we filter for the good things. And that's what this is all about. But it's going to be super, super brief. This one, it is super tactical. So let's jump into it. Goal setting, right? And for many of you might know that I used to play hockey and also shot at very, very high levels in competition. And what I realized is your focus is so critically important, right? But there's a couple of other components that you need to do in here as well. Because ultimately, as I said, concentration, determination, and focus will get you so far. But there's some other things that you want working in the background which are going to help you get there. So whenever we look at setting goals, this is the format that we actually use in order to do that financially. So number one, what is the goal, right? So we figure out a list of the goals. Like, what is the one thing that I want to be able to achieve financially? And so we're going financially initially. What is the one thing that I want to achieve in my life, right? So we set the goals out. So then what we do from that goal is we give it a bit of a time frame, right? So when do we want to actually achieve this by, right? What is the time frame that we're going to allow ourselves in order to be able to hit that goal? Because you might just have a goal that just sits out there and it may be well into the future that you look to hit that. One of the most important things is the celebration. So how is it that we are going to celebrate these goals when we actually achieve them? Because quite often when we go through life, when we go through our journey, we spend far too much time actually just reaching our achievements one by one, right? And we never actually spend any time to acknowledge where we've actually come, how far we've come. And this is a gratitude journey. This is to make sure that we understand, that we appreciate where we've actually come. And we can actually enjoy the journey rather than just going from one goal to the next goal to the next goal to the next goal, right? And then that feels like you're on the hamster wheel. You never really get the appreciation from it. And so finally there is then the quantum, or not finally, one of the most important things is coming shortly, but then there's a quantum. So when it's financial, we want to be able to figure out what it is that we need in order to get there. And this is where later on it's going to come into the cash flow modules, right? So we need to actually reverse engineer and try and figure out how we're going to achieve that monetarily and from a budget perspective. And we've got some really cool tools on how to relate this section to the next, right? And then we want to look at why. Why is it important? And why is the why important? Well, the why is what we went through on Monday Money. Well, it's actually 2 weeks ago now because I was at a conference over the last week. Right, so the why is the thing that actually fires up that limbic system. The why is the thing that will help you produce the drugs that you need within your body in order to be able to create the focus and the action that'll help you push through barriers where things might become a little bit tough. Open up your mind when things might get a little bit cloudy, right? And give you the capacity to be able to push through energy boundaries when you need to. Because ultimately, as we said in Monday Money, when you can find the why, this is ultimately what this limbic system operates on, right? You can train your body in order to be able to produce the norepinephrine for focus, the dopamine for the happiness hit, right? You can literally create the chemicals that you need in order to be able to get where you're going. It's not just that. It's literally when you make a decision to do something, then the ability for you to be able to go out there in the universe to create that starts to change, because the more that you believe it, the more that you start to see. The more that you start to see, the more opportunities you see that are in line with where you want to go. And the more opportunities that you see that are in line with where you go, the greater capacity that you've got to actually join onto some of these journeys that'll ultimately get you where you need to go. So riddle me this, like, we've all got one of those people in our lives, and hopefully it's you, right? So I've definitely got a few of them in my life, and they seem to fall ass backwards into money constantly. Out of work, they don't even care. It's okay, no worries. We will get there, right? No problem. Like, drop a comment if you guys know people like this. I'll put it up there because it used to really grate on me. It was like, how do you have the capacity to make this happen? right? Because ultimately I always felt like I was struggling to get there. But their psychology and their vision as to how these things happen, it wasn't by accident, right? There was something going on behind the scenes that was happening that helped these guys and girls just create, right? And we're going to share a little bit of that for you at the moment. Michelle's gone, my son, right? That's hilarious. So kids are definitely some of the best at doing this stuff because they don't have the limits that we do, right? Quite often they have the capacity to see things that we don't and create things that we didn't even know are possible, right? You know, Jeremy, you've got a powerful manifestor in the family as well, or you're just tagging somebody in the post. We're going to go with it's a powerful manifestor, right? And so isn't it incredible when you look at these people doing these things, it's seemingly that they're not doing anything different to you, but it's quite often the outlook, right? And this is why I say that sometimes, it looks a little bit blurry at the moment, what's going on there. But that's why I say, and sorry about the blurriness, that's a bit peculiar. And figure that out. It will just work. It's going to get super, super crystal clear super, super soon. Hopefully. Right, there we go. Case in point, right? So what is the difference? Right. Well, ultimately, when you're open to things, they will come to you. If you're open to the negative, it will come to you as well. Quite often, it happens. You know, you have an argument at home. You go out, you reverse the car out, and you go, "I knew it was going to be a shit day." And then you go bang, and you slam into a letterbox, or you slam into an oncoming car. That's by design, and that's by your design. So this is how to create the opposite side. So let's get into it. We know why the why is important because that fires up the drug system that we need in our body in order to be able to achieve it. Give ourselves the greatest capacity. Right, and so after I've taken you through this, I'm going to show you how to sort this in a way that you can then organize it, right? And then you can start to reverse engineer it. This is super cool stuff. Really, really simple though. Right, so let's just have a look at one. So we go, okay, and this is a question I ask myself, what is the one thing that I want to achieve in my life? If this was all I could achieve over the next 5 years, this is the one thing that I want, right? And this example isn't necessarily the answer to that, but whoops. Oh, man, this happened last time. I'm sorry. Let me find this for you. All right. I'm hoping that I'm going to get this. All right. So the goal number 1, right? Debt-free family home. This is a really common one for Australians. Property prices, crazy, maybe going even higher with lower interest rates right about now at the moment. So a simple one, right? We want to be debt-free. Okay, what's the next component? Well, let's put a time on it because a goal without a time is nothing more than a wish that's just sent out into the ether. So let's build some boundaries around it. Those of you who have heard of SMART goals, this is what a SMART goal is, right? Actually, I call it the SMARTY goal. Like it's not as in Smarties that you eat, but like Smarty Pants, right? So what does SMART stand for? It starts for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. So this is putting the time on there. So this might be it. Make it a tangible time, not just, in 7 years or 8 years or whatever the case may be. Give it context to your life because then you can visualize where you're going to be, who you're going to be, and potentially how great you're going to be when you get there, right? Now, one of the most important things is to celebrate the journey. Like when we're in busy lives and we're high performers, we can literally go from goal to goal to goal, and we never stop to smell the roses. We never stop to celebrate. So think of how it is that you're going to immortalize this moment because this is one of the most important things in your life, right? So this one's super easy. It might be to throw that family housewarming for all of your family, your friends, really celebrate getting into that new house, right? Celebrate being able to be there, celebrate and bring a warm experience to it. Because what this does is it grounds an emotional experience into it for forever. Like I remember the first day that my dad bought the Ford Laser. Right? It was a brand new car, and there was one of two. There was the red one and the white one. And we went down, and of course, I was young. We got the red one, and I remember the experience of going down and choosing it. Right, and then we celebrated by going for a drive around. And as meaningless as that might sound in the context right now, I'm 41 years of age. I still remember that. I still smile when I think about that. And it is a very, very vivid memory that I have. And whenever I buy a new car, I actually think back to that. And strangely enough, I think, well, when I've got a family myself, I can't wait for those moments where I can go and do exactly the same thing. These are the small moments that really make life worth living. So why do we rush past them? Figure out how you're going to celebrate, because also it gives you something to look forward to, something else other than the thing itself, but it emotionally attaches you to a concept, right? And a context of the future. And you think about how that's going to start to fire up your limbic system, because now not only are you getting something which is quite challenging to work for, maybe challenging, but it might have taken you a long time. You now understand what you're going to look like, a little bit gray at that point in time, and you're pre-visualizing how it is that you're going to be celebrating that. Now, for those of you who are into the quantum world, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go into quantum mechanics or any of that sort of stuff, other than to say that if you believe in that stuff, right, you're starting to create the future in advance from a quantum perspective as well. Which also brings me into what is the quantum, play on words, right? So what is the number? Perhaps that's the number for you, right? So this is super, super important and practical when it comes to planning the cash flow later on, because you're going to have multiple of these sorts of goals and you need to figure out how to plan for that over time. And here's one of the most important things. Why is it important? And, you know, it may well be that we want a home to be proud of, something that we can raise a family in, feeling safe, secure for our children, right? There is no, for most people, there is no deeper meaning than family, you know, and being safe and providing a beautiful environment for them to grow up in. So what have we done? We've gone from, I want to be debt free. Now just let that resonate. We've gone from, I want to be debt free to, we want to have a debt-free family home by the time I'm a little bit grey in the beard, so that we can celebrate that with all of our family and friends and create amazing experiences in there. This is the amount that it's going to take. This is what I'm putting out into the ether. But ultimately, the reason why we're doing it is so that we can have something that we're safe, that we're proud, that we love, and we want to grow up in. So now this is less of a tactical cash flow type of thing. This is an emotional experience. So not only will your physiology and your psychology provide the physiology for you to have greater focus, greater energy and determination to get there, but from a quantum perspective, you're actually putting a whole lot of shit out there that is potentially going to make it happen a whole lot faster, right? So it's all about enjoying the journey as well. Like just feeling the difference between what I just took you through and we need to become debt free. It's chalk and cheese. You know, and it's how you look at the challenges, how you look at the things that you want in life, which will ultimately determine the quality of your life. And the quality of your life will be determined by the questions that you ask yourself and how is this important to that destination? And then the actions that you take on those questions to make sure that you can actually get there. That's why this is so, that's why I'm so passionate about this, and that's why this stuff, ultimately, it just works, right? And so here's 2.0 version. And we're going over time. Drop a comment if you actually like this, right? And if this is something that you're, enjoying and it's resonating with you, so that I'm not just talking to myself up here. It'd be really great to know. But what you can do here is, this is just one of many, right? Now, depending on who you are, you might be the person with the Christmas list, right? And it might be a long list and you're like, I know exactly what I want and I'm going to have a field day. I'm going to have 52 of these suckers. There's going to be one for every week of the year. So if that's you, that's totally cool. No judgment whatsoever. That's cool. Bring out the list, right? Celebrate the success. But here's the thing is, we want to make sure that we can line this up and make it make sense over time. And what we're going to do here, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. Michelle, Jeremy, Michael, awesome to have you guys here. Naomi, awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. It's good to be in a conversation rather than one-way dialogue. Right? But so many of you may actually have this big list, and some of you are just going to have 3, 4, or 5. But here's the thing, right? You can probably achieve all of them. But one thing that I know is that when you make a decision to go out there and do something, the world will conspire. And this isn't my quote. This is Thomas, forgotten his last name right now. Albert loves to say it. He's a good friend of ours, a good friend of mine rather. And maybe yours too, right? But the world will conspire to make it true. But what I also feel, and what I've seen in my life, is that when I make a decision to do something, the world also throws a whole lot of stuff at me to see how much I want it, right? It's kind of like you make a decision and then a whole lot of stuff will get thrown to almost like it's there just to derail you, to see how committed on the path you are. And if you've got a whole lot of things, right, and it's out of context and you've got a big wish list, well, sometimes you can then be diverted, and sometimes it's strategically diverted. All right, now I want this. No, now I want that. Okay, now I want this, and now I want that. And that is an incredible way of sabotaging you actually achieving what you really want, right? Because quite often when we condense it down, there might be 2, 3, or 4 things that are super, super important. So this is what you can do. Once you've got these goals written out in this sort of format, you then ask yourself the question, if there was only one goal that I could achieve, just one, maybe for the rest of your life, or maybe you put it 10 years. If there was just one, right? Which one would I be most proud to achieve? Which one would have the greatest impact on my life? Which one would create the most amount of abundance? Which is the one? If there is just one that I can achieve. Now, quite often that's going to be the highest example at the very, very top of your values chain. That comes up to number 1, right? This becomes the what I call the values-based decision-making matrix. Then you've got your number 1 position. Then you ask yourself again, if I could only achieve one thing, what would it be? And so we keep asking that question to be able to sort and order our Christmas list, or maybe the top things that we need in our life. And they're all in this format. They're all in this format over here. And that becomes a way that you can reference whether you're on track or not. They always say that a person who chases many rabbits catches none, right? So this is a way of being able to sort by value so that ultimately you can start to work towards these from a financial perspective and start ticking them off, right? And this, from my perspective and from what I've seen, the people who do this type of work, both in professional business world, personal world, and financial world, have the greatest amount of success. As Zig Ziglar said, a goal properly set is already halfway reached. So that's the tool and tactic. Geez, it's gone a hell of a lot longer today, but I love this sort of stuff. Let me just see whether there's any other examples in here. Sorry, any questions? Fark still going? Yes, I am. Michelle. Obstacles everywhere, Mark Cooper. Yeah, I get it, right? And so when there's obstacles everywhere, quite often you can get diverted off the number 1 thing that is the most important thing that you need to be focusing on, right? Because you maybe don't realize what that is and you don't understand the context and the emotion towards that. So yeah, I think that ultimately, and look, I take it back to sporting analogies. It was always the way. And there's no greater example, I don't think, than Stephen Bradbury, right? Most people remember Stephen Bradbury as the dude who fell over, where everyone else fell over and he won the race. He was there. And what most people don't know about his history is that he was the number 1 in the world for like 10 years. He was the best. He was the fastest. And he had several injuries that ended up just before each of the Olympics, where severe injuries that almost saw him, dead. And they took him out for the Olympics. And then finally, he was finally there in the last race. Right? He deserved to win that more than anybody. Maybe he wasn't the fastest skater that day, but he had been the fastest skater for the last 10 years, but he was still there on the day and was able to monopolize on the opportunity. And that is an example as to how these sorts of things work. How do I know if my goal is unrealistic and I'm aiming too high? Greta, look, sorry, Greta. I always do that because the way your name actually visualizes to me, Jeanette. Look, this is a thing that ultimately, I mean, it's, for me, if you want to go, I'm going to go out and make $1 billion, that's not beyond reach, but it's how committed to that journey are you going to be. Right? Sometimes the bigger the goal, the greater the level of determination is going to be in order to be able to get there. So potentially what you can do is you can chunk these things down and you look at the chunk size, you make them just a little bit, give yourself, if this is my 20-year journey and I need to be there in 20 years, where do I need to be in a year in order to be able to get there? And see how you match up to that over the course of a year. And a course of the year in the span of a lifetime is only minute, right? But the course of a year in looking to where you want to go, and the other thing is if you make a decision like that, that's going to be huge, and that's the direction that you're going to go in. And you set yourself that first sort of year of discipline, because when you start to get behind, and this is a completely different part of the psychology, but if you have a massive vision, if you have a massive dream that you're working towards, you will know what it takes as a human being in order to get there. So if your goal is that of an Olympian, right? So number one in the world at what you do. If that's your goal, that's 1 in 6 odd billion people to get there, right? Or ballparkish, right? So you will know instinctively that there are certain behaviors, certain traits, certain amounts of determination that you're going to need to have in order to be able to get there. Now that is your litmus test as to whether it is attainable and whether it's realistic, right? Because ultimately, if you set it and straight off the bat, there's that internal thing that goes, there's no way I can get there. Well, you possibly can, but you need to change your psychology first. It's probably a long-winded answer of saying it down. So, of breaking it down. But the best way I can advise on that is just chunk it, right? If it's massive and you want to give it a crack and you want to be able to see whether you are able to get there, understand who you need to be in order to be able to get to that end goal, which is massive, and then see whether you have the discipline not to necessarily achieve 1/10 of that journey, right? But to see whether you can achieve the status of the person that you need to be in order to be able to get there. Not status, the discipline of the person that you need to be in order to get there. Because that's ultimately going to be the thing that gives you the grit and gives you the ability to be able to tackle the big things. Or maybe you're an incredible manifester, but that's not my game. You know, you might need to go to some sort of yogi who is a hell of a lot better at that sort of stuff than me. I need to break this stuff down into more practical, tactical forms that give me the greatest chance of being able to manifest it, but also help my biology, my physiology to be able to achieve these things. So thank you all for jumping on. Huge amount of comments coming through, so I really do. Team, I love it. I appreciate it. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the 10-minute tactic. I'm not sure if you can see them all coming up on the screen right now, but do love it, you guys. It's great to have the support of all of you around. So look, that's it for today's Thursday's tools and tactics. We'll see you all next Monday, and we're going to keep this going right up until just before Christmas. So if you're enjoying it and you're liking it, please let me know. And if there's anything you want us to cover, please also let me know, because I'll do my best to make sure that we cover it over coming weeks. So in the not too distant future, being next week, we're going to start to focus on some of the more tactical areas. And I can't remember whether I was going to start off on debt or whether I was going to start off on cash flow. I can't remember. So it's going to be one of the two. But stay tuned. I'll let you know through the ads that we pop out, or not ads, but just the display that we put up in advance. But happy Thursday for those of you who are not on Wine and Wisdom tomorrow night with myself and Jason Witten. Have a great weekend and appreciate all of you immensely. Have a great weekend, and use the goals and use the decision-making matrix in order to be able to prioritize and find out what's important to you and what are the first steps you need to take to get there, so that you can fire up your limbic system and get the natural push and the natural drugs that need to be produced by the limbic system, not taken, that ultimately will give you more focus, more energy, more capacity to achieve the things that you want to achieve. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. Catch you all soon.